Hmm.
On March 13, 2026, 66-year-old Bhushan Kumar Mittal joined a massive line in the Barnala district of Punjab just for a single cooking gas cylinder. But the queue was so long he couldn't see the end. After several hours in the heat, he suffered a cardiac arrest and died before he could reach the front. His death was the first of many. In Dehradun, crowds physically intercepted delivery trucks to seize cylinders. In major tech hubs like Bangalore and Mumbai, nearly 30% of restaurants have shut down their kitchens entirely as their fuel supplies evaporated. Domestic cylinders with an official price of 900 rupees are now appearing on the black market for up to 6,000 rupees. That is 6 times the regulated cost, driven by a desperation that has gripped every major city in the country. The government has begun implementing desperate rationing measures. In rural areas, the interval between allowed bookings has been stretched to 45 days. Meanwhile, state pollution boards are granting emergency 1-month permits for commercial kitchens to return to burning raw coal and biomass. The sudden collapse of the domestic energy supply has paralyzed both the national economy and the daily survival of millions. While the crisis deepened, the official narrative remained unchanged. Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri informed the Lok Sabha that domestic supply was fully protected and the delivery cycle remained unaffected. Prime Minister Narendra Modi publicly stated that there was absolutely no shortage. He claimed that the panic was being manufactured by those looking to cause a loss to the country through hoarding. But even within the halls of government, the reality was impossible to ignore. Members of the opposition reported that the parliament canteen had stopped serving tea and coffee because it lacked the fuel to heat the water. Instead of acknowledging a supply failure, authorities moved to suppress the news. In Assam, the police warned that anyone spreading information about an LPG shortage would face harsh legal action for rumor-mongering. Despite these official denials, the rising prices and emergency rations pointed to a massive physical absence of fuel in the national grid. India consumes 3.1 crore metric tons of LPG yearly. Domestic production can't keep pace, so 60% is imported. Most imports follow a single path, the Strait of Hormuz. This waterway, separating Iran and Oman, is just 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest. When the United States entered a direct military conflict with Iran, Tehran responded by closing the strait entirely. Iran deployed naval mines across the channel, instantly trapping more than half of India's cooking gas supply on the other side of a war zone. India's energy security was physically tethered to this single coordinate, leaving the country's entire supply chain vulnerable to a single regional disruption. To survive this kind of global shipping freeze, most nations maintain strategic reserves, massive stockpiles of fuel kept in deep storage for emergencies. However, India lacks a dedicated strategic reserve for LPG. The underground caves in Mangaluru and here in Visakhapatnam were designed only to maintain the pressure and flow of the pipelines, not to act as long-term storage for the nation. These caves hold only 1.4 lakh tons of gas. For a nation of 1.4 billion people, that represents a buffer of less than 48 hours of national consumption. Geopolitical analysts had predicted a conflict in Iran months before it began, yet the government failed to secure alternative suppliers or increase the domestic buffer while the shipping lanes were still open. While the war triggered the disruption, the lack of a national buffer transformed a shipping delay into a deadly crisis for people in those queues. A rapid resolution seems unlikely. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, has taken a hardline stance, declaring that the strait will remain closed until all U.S. military bases are removed from the Middle East. The government has publicized emergency shipments from the U.S. and Russia, but the scale of the relief is small. The Nanda Devi and the Shivalik bought in roughly 92,000 tons of fuel, enough to power the country for just over 24 hours. According to Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar, there is no broad agreement to allow Indian ships through the blockade. Instead, diplomats must negotiate for the passage of each individual vessel one by one. For now, citizens are turning to induction cookers and piped natural gas, or PNG, which travels through underground pipelines. Others are urged to report black market prices to the National Consumer Helpline at 1-800-11-4000. Until the geopolitics resolve, these workarounds remain temporary. A realistic return to normal supply will likely take a minimum of 4 to 8 weeks. These alternative solutions rely on a stable power grid, a resource that remains unreliable in much of rural India. As the gas supply vanishes, women who had finally moved away from hazardous kitchen smoke are being forced to return to traditional biomass stoves, cooking over open fires once again. This shift represents an immediate reversal of years of progress made by modernization programs like the Ujjwala Yojana, which aim to bring clean energy to every household. A nation can build modern infrastructure for millions, but without the strategic foresight to protect its supply chains, that progress can disappear in a matter of days.